Hi everybody, I'm Anna Garcia Scopper and I'm here to talk to you about my book, Wishbone. I'm very excited about it. The idea came to me a few years ago because my children were very young when I started writing the novel, and they're teenagers now, but they were much younger. But I was a stay-at-home mother, and I would, read the news online, and I kept coming across news stories where there were these teenage kids who were killing themselves because they were being bullied. And the things that people were saying to them were so painful that they would harm themselves. And it really touched me when I heard these stories, because I'd always heard the expression growing up how sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I always thought that that wasn't true, that that was false, and that if that's what we're teaching children, then we need to teach them better, because we should teach everybody that words do in fact hurt, and they do matter, and they can cause great harm. But just as they can cause harm, they can also heal. So this book was a way for me to kind of reach out to all those teenagers who were feeling like they had no voice. Maybe they're being bullied and they just didn't know how to stand up for themselves. I really wanted to write this book as maybe a sort of inspiration to them, and to have a character go through the same struggle and find a way to overcome that. So my story is about a girl named Pilar Sanchez, and she's 15 years old. She lives in Houston, Texas, with her mother, her half-sister Luz, who's 4 years old, and Luz's father, her mother's boyfriend. His name is Shane. And Pilar is going through a very difficult time because she's overweight. So she's getting pressure at home from her mother to lose weight, because her mother doesn't want to see her made fun of. Her mother doesn't want to see her hurt. But Pilar uses food as a way to kind of anesthetize herself, and she uses it as a source of comfort. So she's having a very hard time, getting healthy and staying away from the junk food that she shouldn't be eating. But she is trying. And another source of her pain is from somebody at school. She's got a bully who's making fun of her and calling her names and making her feel worse about herself. So at the point that the story starts, Pilar is really suffering from low self-esteem. And she's a funny character, she's witty, she's very, very smart, she's very talented. Her dream is to become an actress. So when she finds out that the school is going to put on a play of Our Town, she really, really wants to try out for the play. However, she is very nervous about it. She feels like if she's there up on stage, everybody's gonna see her, the people who bully her will see her, and she's just gonna be made fun of even more and be a bigger target for everyone. So at the point of the story that it starts, she's trying to find the courage to do that. And along with her story there's interchanging chapters. It's the story of her grandmother. So her grandmother's story takes place in Laredo in the 1970s. And her grandmother is also facing her own bully. And her grandmother's bully is her husband. So unfortunately, the Laredo that she lives in the 1970s is one that's very, very, it's machismo, which means that it's very sexist. And particularly the man that she's married to is sexist. And so he treats her less than and makes her feel like she's just not good enough. So as Pilar is going through her struggle, trying to find her voice, we see her grandmother doing the same thing and trying to stand up to her husband and really defend herself and find self-acceptance and love. So throughout these stories, there's humor, there is a great deal of support. My book is also about the importance of family and the family bond, and how our families should be the biggest mirror for us. So before we believe what the bullies say and the people that try to put us down, we shouldn't listen to those voices. We should listen to the voices of the people who love us the most. And that's really what the journey that Pilar is going through, and her grandmother as well. So I hope that you will read it. I hope you will enjoy it. I really, really wrote it with a lot of good intention and a lot of compassion and love for all those teenagers out there who feel alone. And I hope if you read it that you don't feel alone anymore, and that you feel empowered to stand up for yourself and to find your voice. So I'm going to read you just an excerpt. This is part from the beginning, and in this part, like I said, Pilar she sneaks food at night sometimes when her mother is asleep, because her mother is always watching what she eats. She's very, very cautious, and she's very vigilant about watching what her daughter is doing. So at this point in the story, Pilar has waited for everybody to go to sleep. She thinks everybody's asleep, so then she sneaks into the kitchen to get a snack, and she gets caught. So we're gonna pick it up from there. The terracotta tiles feel warm beneath my feet as I creep over to the pantry, where I spy the unopened bag of cookies stashed behind a box of shredded wheat. A ceramic rooster eyes me dubiously from its perch on the countertop as I slide out the package and slowly pull the sides apart, careful to apply the right amount of pressure. Not so much that the plastic rips and sends cookies flying like clay discs in a skeet shooting competition. The bag sighs open in my expert hands. Then, light from above. The searchlight of a helicopter hovering over an escaped convict jumping from an outer wall. Mom's thunderous voice fills the room. Pilar Elvira, ¿qué estás haciendo? What do you think you're doing? My thoughts bounced against the sides of my skull like pinballs. I was sleepwalking. I watched an episode of Hoarders before bed and felt compelled to organize the pantry. I'm collecting cans for the Amnesty International Club food drive. Not a single plausible explanation presents itself. Not one mom would believe anyway. So I lower the cookies and slowly turn to face her. Shame and defeat cling to me like cheese to the top of a pizza box. My eyes slink from her face to my feet. The nail polish has started to chip off the nail of my big toe, and I make a mental note to fix it. I take ridiculous pride in my feet. Fat people have nice feet. They're soft and fleshy, like cherub feet, not knobby or bony, like skinny people's feet. And my toes are all nicely shaped and even. I lift the fuzzy shawl off my shoulders and pull it down over my face, the minty green hem shading into a vibrant teal from my chin to my forehead. Well, I used to make all kinds of things: blankets, socks, hats, even Christmas ornaments, shaped like baby Jesuses. But she stopped for a long time, said it was too hard with the arthritis stiffening up her fingers. She finally picked it up again after I was born. I sneak a look at Mom through a wide stitch in the middle. Her hands are on her hips and she's staring at me with a look on her face she wore often when she was still married to my father. Her eyebrows black chevrons against her olive skin. I haven't seen that look since before she got fed up and left him. It reminds me of moving to Houston. We'd been on the road that day for barely an hour and I already had to pee, but I didn't want to tell Mom. She'd be annoyed. I averted my eyes from the long yellow line dividing the road in front of us. When I thought I couldn't hold it in a second longer, I spotted them. The McDonald's golden arches lit up against the darkening sky like a beacon in the night to guide us through the storm. I lower the shawl again and wrap it tightly around my shoulders. I was hungry. I'm so lame. She folds her arms in front of her and shakes her head from side to side. Ay, Pilar, what am I going to do with you? Her hands fly up in frustration. Those cookies are for your sister. I should have gone with the Amnesty Club excuse and implanted the word in her head. I was just going to have one, I say to the floor. Yeah, and your father was just going out for one beer, and he was just good friends with all those women. She makes the quotation sign with her fingers when she says, good friends. You sound just like him. She shakes her head again. Don't you start lying to me too, Pilar Elvira. I bled for you. Shane stands in the doorway rubbing his eyes, his light brown hair sticking up like the soft peaks on a lemon meringue pie. Mom brings the fingertips of both hands to her forehead and throws them out in front of her. Am I going to have to put a lock on this door? I thought you wanted to be a movie star, like Meryl Streep. Well, who's going to put you in a movie as big as you are? She pauses for a moment as if expecting an answer and folds her arms across her chest again, but I keep my mouth shut. Dígame, all the girls in those movies you watch are all flacas. She puts particular emphasis on the last word, skinny. Shane takes a step toward her. Take it easy, Ray. Mom stops him with a wave of her hand before he can continue. No, Shane, she has to learn. It's a cruel world out there, full of nasty, hateful people. She turns back to me. When was the last time a Latina won Oscars award? Rita Moreno, 1962. But I don't say it out loud. I get Mom's point. There should be more. I know her anger isn't really about me. It's about the world I live in. One that can be unfair, especially if you don't fit into its mold of beauty. Her anger is born of this and of other things she can't even begin to articulate. Of her helplessness, her frustration, and most of all, her fear of not being able to protect me. I understand this, but it still stings. I look up at her, then down at my feet again. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Her face softens and she studies mine for a long time. A sad look in her eyes, a look worse than anger. Finally, she takes a cookie from the package and breaks it apart, hands me the half with the most filling, and pops the other half into her own mouth. She finishes chewing and puts an arm around my shoulder. You have to try, mija. I want you to be happy, but happiness is going to take some work. I promise, Mom, I'll try. Even though I don't really want it anymore, I bring the cookie to my lips and scrape off the smooth white cream with my teeth. Let it sit on my tongue, savoring the sweetness before finally swallowing it. I imagine it sliding down my throat and blanketing my insides like snow covering a junkyard. For a moment, at least, it stifles the voice that always echoes inside me, the one that says, "You are not enough." Okay, guys, so I hope you will look for Wishbone. I hope you'll read it, and I hope that you will fall in love with Bilal just like I did, and I hope you really like it. Thank you.